ordered the church built in the 4th century. His mother, Queen Helena, came here to discover the tomb where Jesus was buried.
The Gospels are written in the lifetime of the eyewitnesses, and they're written in this period of time where you have groups of individuals who could have fact-checked those things.
For centuries, the resting place of Jesus has been sealed in stone and mystery. But when cutting-edge technology scanned beneath its ancient surface, scientists uncovered secrets so unsettling, their faces turned pale. This isn't just archaeology, it's a revelation bridging faith, history, and the unknown. Stay with me until the end, because what was uncovered may shock you more than you can imagine. The tomb through time. The Gospels say that Jesus was buried in a rock-cut tomb near Golgotha after he died on the cross. A rich follower named Joseph of Arimathea gave him this new tomb made of limestone and sealed with a rolling stone. The fact that the body was buried in a yard close to where the execution took place made it stand out from other graves of the time. Early followers thought of the tomb as holy and remembered it quietly, even though the Roman government tried to erase their memories of it. This secret gave the religion a mysterious air that grew stronger as it spread. By the 4th century, Emperor Constantine had led the conversion of Christians from being persecuted to being safe. Helena, his mother, went to the Holy Land around the year 326 AD to find holy places that had something to do with Jesus. According to local legend, she found a Roman temple that had been built on top of what people thought was the tomb. She then ordered the temple to be destroyed. A rock-cut room and a burial bed were found below it, which led Helena to say it was the real body of Christ. Her find was important for both religion and politics because it gave Christianity a physical base in Jerusalem. The spot became the most important Christian shrine when Constantine built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre on top of it. The church has been through fire, earthquakes, and wars over the years, but the tomb room has always been there in some form. Much of the church was destroyed by the Persians in 614 AD, but records show that the tomb was saved. It's almost like history watched over it. People from all over the world risked their lives to get to the spot after the Crusaders rebuilt it in a big way. New walls were built on top of old stone walls each time, but the tomb itself never went away. Even though many people believed in the tomb, doubts about its authenticity never went away. Some historians said that the present site was made up in the Middle Ages and was only chosen hundreds of years later to keep pilgrims in line. Others pointed out that the accounts in the Gospels pointed to a garden outside the city walls, which made people wonder because the limits of Jerusalem have changed over time. But archaeological studies proved that the spot was outside of the city in the 1st century, which fits with what the Gospel says. This tension between faith and doubt gave the tomb a double life. It was a holy place for millions of people and a mystery for experts. It is unusual in archaeology for the tomb's fame to have lasted for almost 2,000 years. Few ancient places have been remembered through wars, empires, and cultures, but this one has always been important to Christians. Even skeptics agree that the fact that people still believe is amazing. This suggests that early communities may have taken better care of the site than was first thought. Still, some people say that there isn't enough direct proof to connect the tomb to Jesus. It is still a place of faith without a sign, relic, or record. It wasn't often that experts were allowed to open the marble slab that had been over the grave for hundreds of years. That changed in 2016. They found the old limestone bench below it, still whole after being enclosed for hundreds of years. The marble covering was tested and found to be from the time of Constantine. This proved that the tomb has been revered since at least the 4th century. Even though this happened earlier than many doubters thought, it didn't show that the room belonged to Jesus. The finding gave us some answers, but it also raised more questions. One thing that is often forgotten is that Helena's finding wasn't just about faith, it was also about bringing an empire together. Constantine made a spiritual and political center by connecting the empire's new faith to a holy place. This makes it sound like the spot wasn't just picked out of religious devotion, but also with a strong political goal in mind. That it served two purposes may explain why the tomb stood the test of time, being guarded by emperors, kings, and troops who knew how valuable it was. It wasn't just a shrine for the dead, it was also a sign of power and authority. The tomb is unique because it has been able to stand up to waves of destruction that destroyed other holy places. It should have been gone after each attack: the Persian invasion, the Muslim conquest, the Crusader Wars, and the Ottoman neglect, but it kept coming back. In the past, scholars say, important memories often faded when actual sites were lost. But this one wouldn't go away. People on pilgrimages told stories about the same stone room in Jerusalem that they had heard about in other countries. No matter how hard the forces tried, history would never be able to cover it up. The tomb was covered in mystery for almost 2,000 years, standing between faith and doubt. Archaeologists found bits and pieces of truth, but they never came to a strong enough conclusion to stop either side. The stone kept the secrets safe for generations as people tried to figure them out. It protected silence more than proof. When artificial intelligence came along, it brought tools that had never been used by humans before in this room. The technology promised to break through hundreds of years of stone and quiet and make the tomb talk in ways no one thought possible. The slab didn't just hold history, it concealed a secret that technology alone could finally force into the light. Machines meet mystery. A new type of scanner was used by the team. These scanners blend high-resolution imaging, spectral analysis, and machine learning. These scanners were first made for medical archaeology and spacecrafts. These systems can read more than just shapes. They can also pick up tiny chemical fingerprints and changes in mineral layers that our eyes miss. Engineers fed the model thousands of pieces of ancient stone so it could learn how stone reacts to weather, repairs, and human hands over many years. Instead of having just one camera, the setup stacked different wavelengths on top of each other and then let the program combine them into a single picture that could be searched. With the help of space-age devices and AI that was hungry for patterns, the team was able to look inside the tomb without using chisels or making noise. This AI does more than just record. It guesses missing parts in the same way that restorers put together pieces of torn-apart manuscripts or buildings that have fallen down. The system has been taught to figure out what secret geometry and faded marks mean. It fills in the blanks by comparing patterns across time and culture, making a plausible version of what used to be. Researchers wanted to know things like whether the walls were from the same building, whether small holes in the walls held artifacts, and whether chemical signs could lead them to old rituals. The machine's job was to put the pieces together so that the sealed room could be read like a paragraph instead of a puzzle. If it worked, it would bring back to life digitally a place that people could no longer safely enter. After the AI ended its first pass, it made a detailed 3D map of the chamber that showed hidden hairline cracks and repaired layers that the camera hadn't seen. The map clearly showed two distinct stages of construction, not just one long one. This shows that the tomb was changed on purpose many centuries after it was first used. That crack in the layers made them rethink. The room had been rebuilt or strengthened on purpose, and the reason could have been anything from keeping it safe to hiding it. Even more surprising was the fact that small, organic residues were found stuck in microscopic cracks. These included pollen, plant fibers, and trace proteins that normally disappear in open sites. These tiny leftovers were like time capsules that kept a faint record of who came and what they left behind. Then the AI showed the faintest of marks on the burial bed itself. These marks were too small to see with the human eye, but they made sense after being enhanced by an algorithm. The experts in the room fell into a tense silence. The pattern looked like it was meant to be there and was older than the marble covering, which suggests that worshippers or caretakers from the past dealt with the slab before it was rebuilt in the Middle Ages. A new theory comes to light. The site may have been secretly marked by followers in the 1st century and then changed for political or security reasons in later centuries. This would have made the tomb both a place of worship and a sign of power. This finding makes people think about the morality of scanning holy places, but it also opens up new ways to do things, like micro-DNA of residues, non-invasive chemical reads, and virtual reconstructions that anyone can see without touching. Even though it didn't answer all of our questions, the machine brought the dead past to life and made history talk in a language we can now read. Words hidden in stone. And I found letters and small scratches on the gravebed that no one had ever been able to see clearly before. Several wavelengths were combined and made stronger, which turned faint grooves into forms that could be read and looked like early Greek and Aramaic characters. The marks came in short groups, not as random scratches, which suggests that they were written on purpose rather than being damaged by mistake. When things became clear, techs stopped fiddling with the screens and just watched the letters appear as the algorithm told them to. Seeing those old strokes was like hearing a whisper from at least 2,000 years ago. I compared the letter forms to scripts used in the 1st century and brought out the small weathering patterns on each cut. The program looked at the micropatina inside the cuts and compared it to the stone around them. It found that the marks were all showing the same amount of aging, which supports an early origin. It also found very small tool marks like vertical lines and pressure patterns that matched the marks made by simple hand tools used in early quarry and burying work. These small marks are different from those on deeper medieval chisels, which suggests that at least some of the engraving happened before the big reconstructions that followed. This is an important technical feature because it is harder to fake tool marks than ink or paint. Some of the pieces that the AI put together looked like the letters that make up the name IAO, which was used as a holy name for gods in ancient Jewish and Hellenistic cultures. In addition, the scans showed shapes that serve as symbols, such as half-fish figures and patterns that look like seeds. These shapes can be found in early marks for believers who lived together. Like secret language, these signs let people who knew what they were doing know that this place matters without drawing unwanted attention to themselves. It made sense for worshipers who were in political danger to mark a spot in secret. Since public monuments could be burned quickly, these worn-out signs could be the mark of a small, determined group working to keep memories alive. Patterning of the marks suggested repeats, with lines on top of lines and small recuts that suggested more than one visit rather than a single act. I found small amounts of soot and oil in narrow cracks next to the slab, which suggests that it was anointed or that a lamp was used nearby. Because these micro residues are stuck in places where they can't be quickly cleaned or changed, they are like little notes that caretakers left behind. That points to organized caretaking, with people coming back, doing short practices, and leaving clues that only other believers could read. This suggests a new plot. The space was watched over by a secret group of guardians long before it was officially recognized. The program put together a piece of the translated text that sounds a lot like the phrase, "He is not here," which is used in the Gospels when the tomb is found empty. The team could feel their hearts race when they saw those words on the screen. Faint, stuttering, but logical. If the writing is very old, it might be the first concrete sign of the resurrection story that people who thought they saw or heard it left behind. But the context is still very important. The phrase could be an extra devotional part that was added later and copied by travelers over the years. Still, the fact that the line shows up in stone causes historians to look at both written records and physical evidence. I found a second set of strange things. Tiny pollen grains and limestone dust stuck in seams that don't match the bedrock around them. The pollen patterns are different enough to show that the slab was either moved or put in a different setting at some point. When you add the 2 stages of construction that the AI mapped, the data shows that there were 2 important events, an early sealing and a later planned resealing or remodeling. That pattern brings up tough questions about whether it's a defense against grave robbers, a political makeover, or an attempt to hide something else. The staggered ceiling turned into a major puzzle that needed careful historical and archaeological analysis, not because of the Bible, but because technical signs point to worship happening decades, not hundreds of years, after the events the texts describe. If early followers did mark the slab, it means that people still remember how important the tomb was for a long time enough to leave physical signs. Ancient letter shapes, tool marks, micro-residues, and movement evidence all put together to make a puzzle that both believers and skeptics find hard to solve. Scientists had to decide whether to make too many claims based on positive signs or to slow down and do more tests to confirm or disprove the AI's reading. The hush between excitement and restraint in the room was just as telling as any carved line. It showed how close the stone had come to speaking and how careful experts must be when they answer. What began as simple data soon ignited firestorms of issues. Faith saw proof. Science saw peril, and the clash between them shook the world to its core. The Clash of Worlds. Some researchers were very quiet and still, while others clung to their worries. It was almost like a play going on inside the lab. A lot of hopeful people saw the low grades as a physical reminder of stories that had been told for hundreds of years, but were now clear in a new way. Scientists were wary of the old risk of pattern seeking that came up with every design that seemed like it might work. This is when you see letters where there are only scratches. There were different answers on the same screens with the same information. This made the talk quick and important. The way they talked about things set the tone for a speech that was heard all over the world. As soon as the news hit, it quickly spread through labs, churches, and social networks, making people feel both scared and hopeful. Some scholars and pastors called the scans the first physical proof that early followers saw the site as unique and thought it was a rare link between writing and stone. Some people said the find could be used to make money or by political groups to further their own goals, or it could be turned into a conspiracy theory. Parts of the story got around on social media much faster than labs could check them, which led to headlines that came out before they were fully checked. This difference brought up a modern problem. People can get set in their ways about a story before science has a chance to fully look into it. The leaders at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre gave a careful, measured answer that showed how responsible they felt for a shrine that was still alive. Some priests liked the technology because it was a safe way to learn more about the site without bothering it. Other priests were worried that it might change how pilgrimages and rituals were carried out. It was hard for scientists to agree on technical problems at the same time. For example, could the etchings be later graffiti? Could the AI fit the facts too well? Were the clues for dating strong enough to say that it happened early? After some disagreements, a plan was quickly made for microstratigraphic checks, non-invasive chemistry tests, and labs from outside the original study to look at the data again. The goal for everyone was clear: don't make any shocking claims, and keep studying and praying as usual. For the first time, technology made the tomb speak again, and its echoes may rewrite faith, science, and human memory. A tomb that speaks again. The AI scan didn't find any clear answers, so the tomb went from being a stone that didn't say anything to being a noisy puzzle that scientists can't stop studying. Early followers may have marked and cared for this site by leaving marks that are small enough to be hidden but clear enough for modern tools to read. That proof doesn't prove a miracle, but it does show that people remember and protect the things that are important to them all the time. You could add a new plot to your video about a secret group of caretakers, regular people who kept the memory living in plain sight by making ritual marks and small repairs. By focusing on them, the show adds a human element to the stone and data, making science feel closer and less far away. Technology turned into a bridge, not a wall, between faith, history, and hard measurements. That's what makes this scan so powerful. Researchers can now see patterns that have been frozen in stone for 2,000 years thanks to advances in spectral imaging, machine learning reconstructions, and tiny chemical reads. To measure the accuracy of the results, scientists want to create an open version digital archive where all the raw scans, AI models, and expert notes can be kept and read by everyone. The archive would also be subject to strict peer review. This digital witness would stop labs from making false claims, let experts from around the world check the results on their own, and let everyone see what the data really means. For YouTube, that gives them an idea for an episode. Show the data's journey from a dusty stone to a public archive with checks, questions, and confirmations along the way. It's hard to figure out what happened with the second closing, which is proof that the slab was closed and then closed again hundreds of years later. Some possible reasons are keeping the site safe from grave robbers, hiding things during times of political unrest, or just fixing up a building that is falling apart so that visitors can use it. AI finds tiny bits of debris, pollen that doesn't match the local rock, and oil traces and cracks. These help narrow down possible situations by pointing to different environments and repeated human activity. A forensic checklist is a good video thread. Show people how scientists test each idea, such as through pollen analysis, isotope mapping, and microscopic wear studies, and explain what each finding means. This method turns mystery into method and helps people understand why experts' quiet might be the honest, careful answer and not a cover-up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.